Art at Work is a series of professional development workshops designed for artists and arts organizations practicing in any artistic medium. The program is presented in partnership with the City of Richmond Art Services, Richmond Public Art, and the Richmond Art Gallery. The program is intended to provide artists and arts organizations with knowledge and skills relevant to pursuing a professional practice in the field of public art, performance, visual art, and community arts. So make sure to check out the different workshops that we offer. We offer them from basically February until October. You can get the information on the City of Richmond website as well as the Richmond Art Gallery website if you just type in Art at Work workshops. And this is one of 3 public art workshops that Richmond Public Art is offering. I also wanted to let you know that we do have some evaluation forms about today's session, but also if you have any ideas for workshops that you want to see as practicing artists, we're always looking for new ideas to offer, so make sure to fill it out. It's just at the table there by Sabina, and just give us an idea of how we did today. I also wanted to welcome you after the workshop. We'll probably be done before 12 because like Hillary and I were like, they probably don't want to listen to us until 12. But after we finish, we'll have a few more minutes. If you want to pop by the exhibition Chromophiliacs at the Richmond Art Gallery, it's fantastic if you haven't seen it. It's a neatest splash of color in this rainy season. So please make sure to see it. As well as also the museum has a fantastic exhibition on skating culture in Richmond. So without further ado, I wanted to introduce the presenters today. Sara Graham is the Community Arts Coordinator for the City of Port Moody, where she leads and supports public art initiatives, art and cultural programming, and community-engaged art projects. In this role, within the city's Cultural Services Division, she helps activate public spaces with creative programming and works directly with residents, youth, and artists to foster vibrant, community-driven art experiences throughout Port Moody. Welcome, Sara. And I should mention Sara's also a fabulous practicing public art artist. And we do have Sara's work in our collection, a couple of pieces, actually. Hillary Letwin works as the Manager of Cultural Services for the City of Coquitlam. She holds a PhD in art history from Johns Hopkins University. From 2020 until 2024, she worked as the administrator, curator for the West Vancouver Art Museum. She has overseen and contributed to the creation of public art and cultural recognition in multiple projects across the Lower Mainland. Welcome, Hillary. And last but not least, Chris Mora is an arts administrator and cultural planner with over 15 years of experience working in the arts and culture sector. He has worked with both public and private organizations and has extensive international experience in Europe and Southeast Asia. Chris is currently the public art planner at the City of Surrey. Welcome, Chris. So today's session we're going to be, it's called Exploring Public Art Exploring Public Art in Local Regions, something like that. But we get a lot of questions about not just public art in Richmond, but also what other municipalities are doing. So this is the second year that we've offered a workshop where we've invited colleagues from other municipalities to speak about their programs and also the different types of commissions that they offer. So it's a good kind of a way to gather everybody and see, because some of our programs are very similar, but I think there's some key differences. So it's just really nice to hear from the managers and planners from those municipalities and learn about the differences in those regional programs. So without further ado, we'll just start the presentation. So the first part we'll talk about the different types of programs that we offer. Civic programs, private development programs, and community programs. And perhaps if you can, maybe I'll just let you know, give you a sign. Okay. So, Hillary.
Hello. Can you hear me okay? Yeah, excellent. Well, thank you, Biljana, for hosting us today. It's such a pleasure to come and be a part of this series. My first gallery job here in the Lower Mainland was at the Richmond Art Gallery. So this is a building and a space I know well, and I've always had great admiration for this series. I think the Art at Work series has been going for several years, certainly when I was working here in 2015, 2016. And I just think it's a very excellent way to give artists an opportunity to explore lots of different opportunities. I love the tax workshop, for example, which I always think that's such a great thing to do. So I'm delighted now actually to be presenting as a part of it, because I've held admiration for this series for a long time. So forgive me, I brought my notes on my phone. So if I look down at my phone, it's not that I'm texting my family. It's that I'm making sure that I cover everything I want to cover in speaking about our program in Coquitlam. So as Biljana said, I've worked for the City of Coquitlam since 2024. And I do come from a visual arts background, from a curatorial background. I was the curator and administrator at the District of West Vancouver Art Museum. And I have to say straight up that I approach my work in public art as a curator. It's very hard to sort of shake that experience, and I'll sort of explain as I go through my slides what that looks like. But it is a lens that I look at my work through, and has certainly influenced me. I will also say that our art collection for the City of Coquitlam is just a small part of my portfolio. I also oversee another collection, which is quite different from art. We have the Riverview Hospital Artifacts collection in our care since 2012. And I also act as the official liaison between the city and our cultural partners, and I'll speak about them in a few minutes because there are additional opportunities through the work that they do as well. And then we also run a series of programs through cultural services. We are a small but mighty team of 2 full-time employees. So everything we do is a balance between bringing innovative programming to the city, whether through our art collection or other avenues, and also considering capacity. So all of the work that we do in our art collection, I would be remiss not to say acknowledgement and thanks to all of my colleagues who work in many different departments across the city. We're embedded within teams that work in engineering and public works. Also parks, for example, a lot of our art is located in our parks. So the work that we do is very cross-departmental. We don't work in a silo. We're really dependent on our colleagues working in many different teams. So I always think it's important when talking about civic collections of art to acknowledge that it is very collaborative work. And so today I wanted to speak a little bit about some of the work that we've created in the past few years in Coquitlam, and also to talk about our upcoming opportunities. So I'll speak to that in a few minutes. What you're looking at behind me currently is a mural that was painted in 2023 across from City Hall on a privately owned wall. And this mural is one of 10 murals that were created as a part of a fairly new program for the city called the Streetscape Enhancement Program. And this program was put into place through funding from the Destination BC grant, so a provincial grant done in partnership with the City of Coquitlam money. And the whole purpose of this program, the Streetscape Enhancement Program, was to do exactly what it says on the box, to enhance our streetscapes. And we did that through a number of different ways. Murals was one part of that. We also did artful street furniture and tree lighting. And it was really all about placemaking across the city. And it was through this program that we really embraced the opportunity to work with our local businesses and to activate spaces where our commercial zones would benefit from people looking at our public art and seeing it. So this is a beautiful mural called The Ripple by the Raven Takura Collective. And it makes an incredible impression. It's probably one of the most beloved murals that we have in the city. And if we could move on to the next slide. This is a second mural of the 10 that was created as a part of the Streetscape Enhancement Program. And this is on one of the exterior walls of one of our 2 library branches in Coquitlam. It's appropriately called Paperback Dream, which is perfect for a library building. It was painted by Carolyn Wong in 2024. I wanted to bring this mural into my discussion in particular because it really speaks to the importance of matching sort of the theme of a work of art to the location. And that's one of the things that certainly when I'm sitting on a selection panel for public art, or if I'm actually putting out a call for public art, I think it is so important for artists to consider where the work is going that they're proposing and what that purpose is. So Carolyn understood that she was doing this mural on the side of a library, and she thought really creatively about not only how to draw attention to place by including what is a pretty Coquitlam landscape, including lots of bears. We have lots of bears in Coquitlam. And she was able to sort of draw this all together into this concept of Paperback Dream, making reference to some of the books that we know and love from our local libraries. So as artists, I would encourage you when you're putting together a proposal to really think about the context and try to find that perfect synergy. It's what makes such a successful work of public art. If we could move on to the next slide. Thank you. We in Coquitlam have been very eager not just to create public art, but to create activations that exist within our spaces that are enhanced by public art. So we were very excited last year to launch a new program called Music in the Streets, which is a musical performance opportunity within spaces that have been enhanced through the Streetscape Enhancement Program. And this is something that I wanted to speak to because the City of Coquitlam is one of many municipalities that have a sizable collection. Our collection is 56 pieces currently. Most of our pieces are coming up on their sort of 10 to 12 year range age. It's really important when a city is commissioning public art that there's also a plan in place for long-term maintenance and care and activation. We, like many of my colleagues, are very eager to see the art not just as a backdrop, but something that can be sort of brought into our city life. So our Music in the Streets program, we launched it last summer. As you can see here, we have brought in musicians to play in spaces that have been enhanced by the streetscape artwork. So the work that you see surrounding the library entrance was also designed by Carolyn Wong, the same artist from the previous slide. Bringing in our musicians into these spaces. We had 3 locations last summer. This coming summer, we'll have 4 locations. It's just a wonderful way to activate our enhancements. If we could move on to I think the last slide that I have. So I wanted to just say a few words about upcoming opportunities. I know that this part of the session is meant to be devoted to the different types of public art that we have in the collection. I've just spoken quite a lot about our civic public art. In terms of the other commissions, which I know my colleagues will speak to as well, we don't really have a lot of work with the private developers that are creating public art in our community, but they will also have opportunities. So I can't really speak to that today myself, but we do have an upcoming opportunity with our new Burke Mountain Community Centre. This is a community center that is expected to come online in the coming years. And it's an exciting opportunity for us to commission a purpose-built piece. So I won't say much more about that, but I will say that if you are interested in learning about any of our artist calls or opportunities, that I brought up a pamphlet, which is over on the side table. And on the back of the pamphlet, we have an email for an e-newsletter. And so whenever we meet artists who are interested in submitting, whether for a public art project or for one of the other opportunities that we have, maybe to be a musician for Music in the Streets, we encourage them to sign up for our Parks, Culture, and Recreation e-newsletter. And then all of our artist calls are through that. I know most municipalities will have a way in which to stay in touch, and that's the way in which Coquitlam does. Can we go to I think I might have one more slide. Yeah, so I mentioned that part of my portfolio is acting as the official city liaison with our cultural partners. So in Coquitlam, we're fortunate to have 4 cultural partners who are each organized. They all have their own nonprofit status, and they all have their own governance bodies, their own boards. So upper left, we have the Evergreen Cultural Society. To the right, we have the Coquitlam Public Library, which I was just speaking about previously. And this is the City Centre branch. Lower left, we have Coquitlam Heritage at Mackin House. And lower left, we have Place des Arts, and then across from it, we have Mackin House for Coquitlam Heritage. And the reason I wanted to mention these 4 organizations is because they all have their own opportunities that they offer. They all have their own newsletters as well. We have a little bit of a dovetail in our newsletters when we are able to feature their material in our PRC e-newsletter that I mentioned. But they're all extremely active, and they have lots of opportunities available to artists, whether through exhibitions or public art in the case of the Evergreen Cultural Centre. So I would encourage you to not just look at what the City of Coquitlam is doing, but to also look at what our partners are doing. And I think that's my last slide, but we'll just make sure. Yes, perfect. Thank you.
Hello. So I am Sara Graham, and my position at the City of Port Moody is the Community Arts Coordinator. I'm a mighty team of 1 working part-time. So I have a lot on my to-do list, and I've been slowly, chipping away at this position. I've been in my position going on getting close to almost 2 years. But before I started, the position had been vacated for 3 years. So there just has been a lot of advocacy right now that I've been in educating different departments as well. And I do think that my background as a professional artist for the last 30 years, as well as in public art for the last 20 years, helps me really advocate for the artist as well. So I do have that mindset, and so I think that sometimes my lens might be too much artist-driven, but that is something that I really do try to be very mindful of with sort of the programs or with opportunities that might happen. It's really interesting too. I think I'm the only municipality that does not have a newsletter, and it's just been quite a challenge for me through my area to try to get one going. But that is my goal for this year, and so hopefully if you are interested in Port Moody opportunities, that you will be able to sign up for a newsletter towards the end of the year. But as of right now, unfortunately I do not have that, and because of FOI, I cannot email people about opportunities as well. So that's sort of the challenge that we have, and so the only recommendation that I have is to check out our site. I know that we are going to be having 2 opportunities coming up for a glass mosaic in Fieldhouse, a glass tile mosaic, and a series of banners further on. The call will come out in the summer. But so keep your eyes peeled, and then for that. So the first thing I was going to talk about is our street art community banner program. This program has been an ongoing program that started in 2005 and started initially at the Pomo Arts Centre, and then got in 2007, then the city started to take it over. And so it was every year, but it's now moving to every 2 years. A call for designs from the community is issued in September. A community panel chooses the designs blindly. We have sort of 2 categories: under 13, the age of 13, and over the age of 13. And in January, the community members come together in our galleria, and we have a 2-day painting session where they paint their designs. We also have 15 of these designs are duplicated on shorter banners, and so either individuals who weren't able, if their banner wasn't selected, or sometimes people who are interested, they, because I feel sometimes they might not quite understand that it's quite a bit of a task to paint these, is that they can paint, as volunteers, paint the short banners. During January, once they're all painted, they're displayed in our galleria for 2 weeks, and then in April, they will be installed in the city. With this program, I work with 2 art teachers from each of our secondary schools, so Moody Secondary as well as Heritage Woods, and they have a class that also in the fall paint 30 banners. So this banner program in the end has 105 hand-painted banners displayed on our streets. Next. One of the sort of other programs that we have that has been sort of also like sort of like a long-standing is Artists in the Park. And this is, it runs through May 1st to September 30th, and that artists can apply for a permit, which is free, to participate and to work in a park. And so it's an opportunity for artists to also, because we allow artists to sell their work if they would like to in the park as well, and it can be any park. It's not, there might be some restrictions on some parks, but as far as I know, most artists tend to pick Rocky Point Park just because of the location and the population or the amount of people that are present, but an artist can also just decide to do on plein air as well. So there's no expectation, and about what we don't have any expectations about this program. Next. Another program that's a very sort of interesting program that I think is unique, maybe from all municipalities, is that we have Art at Council. And so every regular meeting, so that's twice a month, we have an artist who will have a presentation right in the beginning of the Start at Council to present an artwork and to talk about like their practice or their inspiration for their artwork. This particular program is really just designated for the Tri-Cities. However, if there are artists who have an exhibition at the Pomo Art Centre, we have always highlighted them as well. And this program really was started to help, especially counselors, like to sort of educate counselors about what's their own community members are practicing artists within the Tri-Cities and Port Moody, but also to just to educate them too on some of the cultural happenings as well. So if you are interested, that you can either reach out. I tend to be, right now it feels like I'm curating it because I'm just reaching out to artists to participate. And I think that is the end of mine. Yes.
Hi, everybody. I'm Chris. I am the public art planner at the City of Surrey. I think I'll start by saying a major difference between maybe our context or our program versus the other two is that City of Surrey's cultural services team is much larger, I think, and as a result, there's a lot of bifurcation between the different programs. So like what I'm talking about as public art is actually quite narrow in terms of like what we do. It's basically art installations in public space. The things that are more temporary and ephemeral, like performances, would fall maybe to our community arts team, or to our theater team, or to our gallery team. So we have like quite a range of teams that are doing some of the programs that these two are talking about. So yeah, I think that's a first distinction to make. Our team in public art is a team of two, and we are doing quite a lot. In terms of programs within the public art space, we have two. There's the civic program, which means they are projects that are driven by the city and more often than not on city land, but we can talk about that a little bit. And so yeah, those are city-driven projects according to the city's kind of public art process. So I think that's something to also talk about, is that, you know, public art is not just the output, but it's very much about the process that we take to get to that end product. You know, I don't want to call it a product, the end artwork, right? So like the involvement of the public is key. The accessibility of the artwork is key, and I think another lens to add to that, because these two had sort of talked about the lens with which they view their program, I think that another lens that I've added, because I trained as an artist, and I pretend to be an artist from time to time, successfully or unsuccessfully, I think I can apply that lens on the individual project level, right? Like I can connect with the artist and think about, how is this artwork operating? But when we take a step back and we look at the collection as a whole, then we have to apply that curatorial lens, right? Like, what are we adding to this, pardon me, to this collection? Who is being represented? But then I think taking one further step back is we have to take a bit of a planning lens. So after I started at the city, I came more from a collections management and kind of exhibition design background. I did a diploma at Langara on urban planning, because I sort of realized that planning is the language of the municipality. And in order to advocate successfully for public art, or art in general within the city, you sort of have to take it out of the art context, because the majority of people that we engage with are not art people. So you can't use art language and art lens and the art perspective. So I think that the overall mission of the municipality is city building, is creating livable spaces. And so we have to somehow frame public art within that. So I think that a lot of what I do is looking at art and the art projects we're advocating for through a planning lens, and communicating it to my colleagues in that way, because it seems to be better. So I would say, if I were to relay a tip to you guys, I think that the way that you frame your work should also have that aspect to it. Because yes, we are art folk, and we are the people who are dealing with you and taking in your concepts and your ideas, but we then have to relay that to the rest of the city. And so being able to sort of point to, how does this artwork fulfill some of the other objectives that the city is after, is quite powerful, I think. So trying to find something that fits the kind of aesthetic, conceptual, and artistic criteria that we want, but then also fulfilling these kind of livability, beautification, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, that you hear from municipalities and all the buzzwords that come with it. I think finding that marriage is where a great public artwork happens. Yeah, so back to our two programs. So the civic program is are projects that we drive, right? And this is one of those projects. So it's a mural at the one of our facilities called the Surrey Nature Center. It's by a French, now Vancouverite artist named Anais Lara. So the Surrey Nature Centre is embedded in one of our parks, Green Timbers Urban Forest, and it's a really beautiful, beautiful space, and the Nature Center is kind of like a little educational center right in the middle. And this mural kind of takes inspiration from the different flora, fauna that can be found in the park, and is sort of representing it in this aestheticized way. And so one of the things that it kind of does, it can also be an educational tool, you know, like the staff can take the kids out to the mural and be like, oh, what did we just see in the forest, and what can you point here, or what did we learn about in the exhibition, and sort of things like that. So the artwork is kind of operating on those like multiple levels, and I think that that's one of the things that make it successful. Like, you know, public art has to have that, I think, appeal to the general audience, because like as opposed to the gallery where you have a self-selected audience that is coming to look at art, we are kind of imposing art onto people's daily lives, and so we have to keep that in mind. Yeah, so yeah, lovely, vibrant mural, part of our civic program. Can we get one more? Yeah, so this is another work called Seeing Nature by Brandon Vickard, an Ontario-based sculptor. This is the Bear Creek Stadium, a new facility that's being built, has been built. It's a track and field facility in Bear Creek Park, kind of meant to be a international standard facility to host international level athletic events. And this space used to be like a very wide open field, and so this giant building kind of changed the atmosphere of that park a lot. And so we kind of wanted the artwork to interact with this facade in like an interesting way. And so Brandon proposed this concept of like animals that are walking on the wall as if that is their ground plane. So there was this little bit of like surreal element to it. And it's very cute, you know, like they're cute depictions. But then there's something also a little kind of slightly unsettling about these things looking down at you. And so there's like the cute factor. There's a little bit of critique about how we are, whose space is whose space. And so again, this idea of like layering, I think is really interesting. And nature is like a very, very super popular theme in public art. Like, I would love to see less nature things, but like, people just love nature stuff. Anyways, that was an aside. So this is sort of like a range of like, just a quick snapshot of a range of projects that we do in the civic program. Like smaller projects, which I think I have an image of later, are like a utility box wrap, you know? Like that's something that emerging entry-level artist to public art could do. It's a digital file that they have to give us. Then a mural is obviously more involved. You're thinking about site. There's all sorts of logistics. There's access. There's certification. So that's a next level of project. And then something like this, which is, you know, obviously very much larger scale, interacting with architecture, engineering is involved. So the skills necessary to complete a public artwork is quite diverse. And depending on the scale of the commission, just kind of be aware of what is required of you as an artist in order to deliver those things. Because for us, feasibility and our ability to trust you as an artist is super important, right? Because we can't just hand out $300,000 to anybody, and that has to be, so that trust in you has to be very strong in the proposal as well. Like, you gotta really present your capabilities beyond just my artistic capabilities, you know? Like, how's my administration? How's my budgeting? How's my time management, et cetera, right? Yeah. Next slide. Oh yeah, here's just a close-up of the bear looking down on you. So they're bronze. They're very nice. They're very cute, and they're huge. So they feel like there's that kind of weightiness that's hanging over you as well. Next slide, please. Okay, and so the next part of our program is the private developer program. So I think, as we know, Surrey has a lot of development, a lot of houses being built, a lot of condos. And so part of the policy kind of encourages developers to include public art within their developments. So this is one of them. It's called Rainbow Crow by a Cree artist, Judy Chartrand. I can't remember the developer's name, but it's right across from Holland Park in City Centre. The story is about how the crow became black. Like originally, the crow is like a very multicolored, beautiful bird, but winter descended upon the earth, and so all the animals and people kind of asked the crow to fly to the creator for help. And so he flew up, asked for help, and he was given fire. And so he carried fire back down to earth, but in doing so, he was burned black. And so the story of this artwork is kind of told, that story is told within this artwork on this private development. And so the city doesn't play a huge role in these projects. We play more of an oversight role. They present their process and their budget, and then eventually the artwork, and we're just kind of making sure that it is an appropriate artwork for that space. One of the beauties, I think, or advantages of this program is that it allows us to place art in sites that we otherwise couldn't access. You know, as a municipality, we only have access really to the land that the city owns, which is, you know, a small percentage of what is out there. You actually think, if you actually think about it. So that's part of the planning lens, is also like ensuring that these policies are in place for that to happen. This is a interesting part of our program that generally tends to lead to sculptural work because that's sort of like what fits within most of the developments. And but yeah, so these commissions happen outside of our kind of purview, but some developers put them out as open calls as well. They're usually run by art consultants, so I think as in terms of business development, I think getting to know who these art consultants are out there, kind of trying to form relationships with them are probably pretty a good thing to try and do. But yeah, so that's our private developer program. And in terms of community programs, like I say, that kind of falls to some of our different teams. I'm more of like a construction manager in a way with this stuff. Yeah.
Yes.
I'll just ask a quick question, because Surrey does have a newsletter or emails out.
Mm-hmm.
Are those opportunities from the community also part of that?
Oh, yeah. So I should have been plugging my stuff all along. So our calls are almost always open calls. If you follow our newsletter, you will get those calls kind of sent to you. We also post everything on our website, and then we post everything on the Alliance for Arts, BC. I can never remember the name. What is it? BC Alliance for Arts and Culture. They have a job board where all of our calls get posted. So that's kind of our way to kind of reach out.
Well, we're going to talk about the way of disseminating information at the end, but we can also email you all the links that we've been talking about to those who have attended today.
Yeah, I had one more thing to say, I forgot. Anyways, it'll come back to me.
Can I, if I may, just respond to, so I think one of the things that is important to note is that we all do things a little bit differently. And I can imagine that for an artist that can be a little frustrating because you get to know how one city might do things and it might not be the same way that another city does. So I think that any opportunity you can get to meet with people like us and speak to us and ask questions is really important. I never say no to a coffee date. So, and I'm sure my colleagues are the same way. So I think that, you know, it's important if you're interested in a project that's being posted to reach out and to ask questions. And that's where our job of making sure that an artist call is really well and clearly written is really important, because it's one of those things where if you want something good to come back, you need to put good into it, right? So I think that we as public art professionals spend a lot of time thinking about how to construct those calls well and to give you the information that is required. And I think that, Chris, to your point about the building of trust between the city and the artist in that process pay attention to what is being asked in the call. If we're asking for lived experience, there's a reason. If we're asking for, whether or not you have access to an engineer, an independent engineer, that's important. So I think that it's important to tailor your applications to the call itself as best as you can, and to seek out support and help where you maybe can't do something on your own. So I think that if you can show that you're sort of working within a team of people, or you have access to people who have experience that maybe you don't, that definitely strengthens your application.
Larger public art projects are never a solo effort. Like there isn't a single person who is making this thing, right? Like this is a team behind that. And so like you as an artist are really a project manager of a team. You're like the quarterback of a team. You are leading it. I think it's more akin to film. Like you are the director, and a director doesn't know how to operate a camera all the time, but they hire a director of photography. And so same way, like you may not know how to operate a crane, but you figure out who can do that for me. You can't stamp and sign a drawing, but you find out who can do that for you and build relationships with those people. So the more that you have those kind of like subcontractors and have like smooth relationships with them, the more that you can do.
If I could also just add a few more things. I know that I hear from artists quite frequently who are looking to be selected for public art opportunities, and I'm always happy to speak with them and to help sort of give them pointers. And this is one series that I always point them to. I say go into the archive, the video archives of the Art at Work, because there's great information here. But I also think it's really important, if you ever have an opportunity to sit on a selection panel, to do that, even if it's for a relatively minor project, because I think that you gain so much insight into the selection process, and you can start to understand what goes on behind the scenes of a selection. And that might sound like this lofty idea, go sit on a selection panel. But these are generally quite accessible through your municipal volunteer advisory committees. So different municipalities do it differently. In Coquitlam's case, we have a culture services advisory committee that advises council on all things cultural, and we draw our selection panels from the volunteer citizen representatives who sit on that particular advisory committee. And it's probably, again, different from every municipality, but it's not as impossible as it might seem.
Yeah, sorry. Richmond has a selection panel roster that you can apply for, and then you can be pulled from to be part. And we blatantly ripped off that program this year. And it's still open. If you go to our website, you can apply there as artists and be invited to sit on a panel. Yeah, we're not beyond stealing.
And do you strike a new panel for every project?
Yeah.
I have to say, full disclosure, I have really bad allergies. I'm really trying not to cough. And I told my colleagues, just please take the heavy lifting, so thank you. Yes, Richmond has a panelist roster, and please. We just closed the call for that, but if you have a chance to go and look at Surrey's, it's very similar. But we do it every 2 years, and it's comprised of Richmond-based artists, also community members, professionals, as well as non-Richmond based. And we, pretty much everybody, like a lot of people, I would say 80% or 90% of it get picked to get on a selection panel because we have so many. Sorry, Sarah.
No problem. I just was wanting to just continue a little bit of what Chris said, just about that the artist is the sort of the director of and managing everything. That as a city employee, I'm unable to recommend certain companies or contractors or like an engineer to an artist for a project. So that's something that we're not able to do. However, in my experience, that contacting artists who've done projects are very open to sharing information, and where I think that the municipalities where we can actually help is that if you're looking at a project like this and wondering like how was that done or how you had questions, is that you could reach out to one of us and say, hey, I saw this project, is there any way you can connect me with the artist? And then maybe, so that's something that we can do like as well. So we are facilitators and trying, you know, to help support you as best as what we're able to do.
So maybe if we can go to the next slide in the interest of time. I'll be quite quick. A lot of it already has been said. And actually our program and policy is very similar to Chris's in Surrey, I think because of size of the municipality. The Richmond Public Art Program has been around since 1997, but our policy, the way it is right now, has been around since 2010. And we have, I always like to think of it as three major branches of our program. So the first branch is the Civic Public Art Program, and that speaks to 1% of construction costs of any municipal large-scale project, like building a community center or a library or a fire hall, and goes towards public art. So this is just a recent example of a project that we did in front of the Mineral Center for Active Living, which is just across the street here. And the budget for it was large enough that it actually allows us to do 3 different works. So one inside by Germaine Coe in the swimming pool. It's this fantastic cloud that rains once in a while. It's really fabulous. And then a work by David Jacob Harder together, which is kind of a welcoming piece right in front of the facility, and then a smaller community-based piece around the perimeter of the facility. So, so that's an example of a civic public art project that we have as part of our policy. Next slide is we have a lot of development in Richmond. I should say, similarly to Chris, I have planner in my title, and I didn't go to planning school. I actually come from a fine arts background, so I did the same program, but a light version of like Chris did, planning for non-planners, because I had to learn to speak that language. So much of my work is embedded in working with not our cultural department, but working with planning, transportation, engineering, and so on. But the planning language is what guides us, really. Our policies is what guides us. And I see a lot of myself as kind of a translator between the artist and the city, and not just the planning process, but also the council process, because we're very much steeped into the council process, so the politics of it. And yeah, it's quite interesting. I'm still learning that, and it's quite fascinating. I feel so honored to be able to help build a city through art, because when we look at a new development, we look at like the new streets or the new lighting, the way the light's going to be created on the street, and then how the art is going to. So art is like one motif or one element of a larger development that's going to build a city, and I find that's fascinating. And similar to all of you, is very much steeped into placemaking and an objective and a reason of why it's there. Anyways, development, we do about 0.5% of construction costs of a development goes towards public art, which is not a huge amount, but it's so visible and so impactful. And I always like to think of public art. Actually, Chris's predecessor, Leanne Davidson, used to say that public art is like the superhero of the art world. Like, if you have a problem, put public art on it. If you have graffiti, put a mural on it. And it feels like it has so much heavy lifting, but it is such a small budget of the overall project. We do work with, similar to Chris, we work with public art consultants that developer hires, and we kind of oversee the process. And there's a few steps that we have to do, like there's a public art plan that has to be developed, that has to be reviewed by our public art committee, in some cases with council. So there's many steps that we're involved in, but not the everyday administration and project management that I would do in a civic project, for example. And the last thing I would say with this is our development public art program is guided by the rezoning or development permit process. So whenever there's a new project, part of the development or rezoning process includes a public art contribution. So that's actually, if you're around the corner, the brand new piece by Inges Ide, Richmond Skaters at the Richmond Centre Plaza. There's 3 of these lovely figures that speak to a nod to the history of skating in Richmond. And it's a very, very playful piece. And I encourage you to see it when you leave the building. Next slide. And the third branch is our community public art program, which is funded by developer contributions. So if a developer doesn't, they have a choice, or also depending on the size of the development, they may put a public art on their site, or they may put money or funds in our public art reserve in lieu of building a public art piece. So that allows us to do community public art on civic land that's not tied to the civic process. So this is one of my favorite projects that has been going on for 3 or 4 years now. Our mural program has become quite well known, but specifically our facilities department came to us and said, Biljana, we're having a lot of graffiti on, see the hero again. We're having a lot of graffiti on our washrooms. They're kind of along the dike in Richmond, and that we're wondering if we can just give you the funds that we usually use to paint them gray every year. Can we just give you those funds and see if we can do murals? And we've been doing them now for, like I said, about 4 years. I think we've done about 10 or 12. There hasn't been any graffiti. The community loves them. And it's been really lovely working with facilities. So I love getting other departments excited about public art and like seeing how we can work together. That's really, really, really a perk to the job. So that's the community project, and that's just one element of the different projects that we have as part of the community program. We do art wraps, we do temporary public art programs, such as the number 3 art columns underneath the guideway of the SkyTrain. We do capture photography festival. So many, many different community programs that are not tied to the big civic projects. We do as part of this program, and they're funded by developer contributions. And maybe we'll just kind of ease into kind of the final part of this workshop, where we're going to be talking about different types of commissions, because they're not all large sculptures. So next slide. Okay, Sarah.
So I think I may have totally misunderstood a little bit. So it's interesting because I'm talking about the 3 types of projects. Anyways, it's all fine. It all feeds into the same thing. I am going to be talking about sort of 3 different branches like that the City of Port Moody has initiated. And the first one is going to be a community-led project, and very similar to Richmond is that we have an art reserve that has been its contributions in lieu of public art from developers. And so one of the projects that was completed was using some of the art reserve for this project. And I do have to read notes, so please excuse me. So this community project was led by a Port Moody resident named Tasha Faye Evans, and the piece that we're looking at is part of a bigger project, which is called In the Presence of Ancestors, and it's an installation of of house posts that are along the shoreline trail that also just was refurbished last year. In 2017, Coast Salish artist and resident, Port Moody resident, Tasha Faye Evans began a journey journey with a project titled the Welcome Post Project, which included a series of community engagement opportunities and educational sessions along with the carving of a house post at the Noons Creek Hatchery. The Welcome Post Project was the inspiration for In the Presence of Ancestors, which is a project that reasserts the presence of the original caretakers of the Coast Salish lands and waters in and around the place we now call Port Moody. Tasha Faye Evans was the artistic director for this project. Carvers from Tsleil-Waututh, Coquitlam, Musqueam, Katzie, and Squamish nations have carved unique house posts that will restore a highly visible First Nation presence in our community. Installed facing the water, the house posts remind our community of our shared responsibility for protecting the Burrard Inlet. Each installation site will be designed as a space for learning and reflection and will include signage in Salish languages, sharing words from the carvers and the vision of the future of Coast Salish lands and waters. We have installed 2 of the house posts last year, and we'll be installing the next 3 in early spring. And so this particular piece that I'm highlighting was just recently installed last fall, and it's entitled Grandmother, and it's a partnership between Tsleil-Waututh Nation and Katzie First Nation community members. Grandmother is a collaborative effort by artist Damien George and his nephew Jonas Jones, both from Tsleil-Waututh Nation. Damien George is also married to Katzie Chief Grace George, and in the presence of ancestor, it's a heartfelt gesture that includes Katzie's First Nation and a shared prayer for the future of these lands and waters. Grandmother invites us to restore our reverence for Mother Earth and honor all life givers as sacred. So this is a really exciting piece because it's just that opportunity to be able to include sort of cultural significant artworks in an area that normally might not have those opportunities, but it was through developer contributions. Next. Last year, we were able to unveil our first sort of augmented reality public artwork, and I think that we've last year too, I was helping with the process of updating our public art policy that's now retitled Art in Public Spaces, and so we've really tried to open up the definition of public art and what public art means. I think that we're all seeing shifts, that we're no longer seeing public art just sometimes as a standalone object, and in our policy we also include temporary works, as well as in this case an augmented reality. Yes. So this is a very short video. It kind of helps, it provides an experience of what you would see if you were on site. The actual experience is about 20 minutes, but it's, but yeah, we'll just be able to see it. I think you'll get a much better idea. Oh, we'll try a bit later. Oh, it's the case with technology. So this particular piece was in partnership with the Port Moody Heritage Society to commemorate their 100th anniversary of the, So this particular piece just takes up the bowling alley of the Ioko lands, and so if you're, as you saw, you interact with the host ghost, and she then provides you guidance into how to access this work. And then next. And then this was, again, just, we've all talked about developer initiated projects. The one thing that I would really just like to highlight about this particular work, so the title is This Old House by Alex Morrison, who is a Vancouver artist, is that this is an artwork that the artist was brought on board very early on, and I know that we've all talked about this as being in public art and being like on the city side, is that we're really trying to advocate to have the artists brought on board as soon as possible, because then there's just these other opportunities that can happen that might not normally happen if the artist, as an afterthought. I think that we're all, as Chris, just kind of a lot of what Chris was saying about, you know, really sort of thoughtful presentations, is that we really are looking at opportunities where the artwork is really sort of not necessarily seamlessly like integrated, but that it looks like it was intentional. And so I just, I really do feel that this was just installed last year, and it really shows the possibilities, and it will be something that I am trying to advocate of why we need artists brought on right from the get-go, because then there's an opportunity of direct sort of collaboration with the architectural team, and you know, to really start having those conversations of how we can make something work, or how we can integrate something.
So thanks, Sarah. That was great to see. So I was just going to speak a little bit about some opportunities for emerging public art artists that I know we've already alluded to. I won't spend much time speaking to them, but as a part of the new Streetscape Enhancement Program that I mentioned in my previous discussion, we have additional funding now to do 2 more years of streetscape enhancement work, and we are including opportunities for emerging artists through creating design-only commissions for construction, fence hoarding, and also, if you go to the next slide, for utility box wraps. So we're excited to be able to offer opportunities for artists who maybe don't have the lift experience for murals or the engineering experience for large-scale commissions. There is still this opportunity for artists who are just getting started to get into the collection and to gain some of that experience of working in the public art realm. And if we go to the last slide, nope, that was me. That was it.
Okay, so this is me. So at Surrey, we have 2 kinds of commission. Basically, I don't know what to call it, but the type where the artist is kind of responsible for everything, you know? We give you the budget, you take care of everything from beginning to end. So a mural is one type of project like that. You know, we give you access to the site, we do some, you know, we help you out along the way, but by and large, you are responsible for delivering the whole project. If we go one more. So this is an installation photo from a recent sculpture that was installed maybe just about a month ago at a new facility that just opened up. It's an ice arena. It's by an artist named John Patkow and Peter Wenger, a duo. It's called Stillness, then Return to Ground. I just wanted this particular picture because so you could see that like the cranes and all the crew and all the fencing, like all of that stuff is arranged by the artist, not us. We are just there to make sure that those things are in place. But really, it's largely the artist's responsibility to do those things. So when you are going to take on a commission of that type, you know, be ready for all of those things. And then one more. And then the other kind is like what Hillary was talking about, or what we generally call design-only projects, where we as the city are taking on the fabrication, the installation, all of those things, and the artist is just providing us with a design. Those are usually cases where the scope is extremely limited. You know, like we're building a bridge. There's only so much we're allowed to do there. Basically, they said, you can put some panels on the railings, and what we can do is, I mean, at this size and these locations, and we just get to decide what's in the box and what's the color. And so, again, like Hillary said, these are great projects to get started on. If you are familiar with vector software, that's all you really need to do to fulfill one of these. And they are pretty significant, you know, like it is a piece of infrastructure. It will be there for 20 years or so. So these are good projects to dip your toe into the field. If we get one more, and this is another version where, utility box wrap, just like Hillary said, you know, it's a very constrained project. It has 4 sides. This is the dimensions. Give us a vector file and we'll put it there. And I think like as an artist, you may think, it's so limiting, but actually if you can show your creativity within this highly constrained sandbox, that really shows your quality as an artist, right? Like the ones who can really extract the most juice from this little tiny commission you'll really be able to showcase your skills in that way, I think. So.
Just to add to that, also maybe limiting experience in terms of the site, but you get to work with the municipal climate. So working with the planner, working with transportation, just like, you know, and trying to understand how that works, because it's different than installing something in a gallery.
Totally. And like if you go back one, you know, working with a water jet cut fabricator or a steel fabricator, you know, they'll be like, oh, this is a little too big, someone's finger might get stuck, or this edge is a little too sharp, can we adjust it? Like all those little details are new skills that you're gonna acquire in doing that, and that can bear fruit later on. So, thanks.
Again, in interest of time, I'll be quite quick because I think a lot of it has been covered. Richmond has very similar types of commissions that have already been mentioned. So standalone artworks, like the one where the artist does everything from fabrication, well, with subcontractors, fabrication, installation, design, everything is done by the artist. So this is a project by Thomas Cannell and Kelly Cannell, sorry about that, at Richmond Centre Plaza, which is also across the street, so you could see them after the presentation. Next slide. This is just a work that actually has just recently been installed. So the planting is not done yet. You could see it's very, very bare. But this is an artwork where we had a very limited budget because it's a small civic project, which is the Bowling Green Community Activity Center. And the artist worked on just a design, which is this rectangle in front of the at the Center Plaza, and you can't even see it yet because it hasn't been power washed. I literally just took the photo, but the artist, I put it in because I wanted to show you this is a very small commission. The artist created a design only, which was then installed by the same installers that did the plaza, and he was limited to just using the same pavement colors and pavement material that was already going to be used in the plaza. So that's one. The next one, similar to Chris, we do a lot of utility boxes. The utility boxes we commission through our urban infrastructure art roster, which is made up of all Richmond-based artists. So very good opportunity to get your toes dipped into public art if you haven't had that experience before. So we have 2 rosters, that one as well as the mural roster. And the mural roster is more expansive, you don't have to be from Richmond only. But again, both of these rosters we have a lot of opportunities, and it's a really good way to kind of get in, and you don't have to apply for a project, you're already being pre-approved. Next one. This is a temporary public art program that we do every 6 months. There are these lit up cases, exhibition cases at Aberdeen and Lansdowne Canada Line stations, so they're underneath the guideway. We change the artwork every 6 months, and it's a really good opportunity for 2-dimensional artists to get exposed to the public realm. They're lit up at night, so it's a really, really wonderful element into the public realm in front of or underneath the guideway, which can be usually kind of a dark spot. And next one, and I mentioned already Capture Photography Festival. We do this annually in partnership with the Richmond Art Gallery. We do 3 different stations, also in partnership with the In Transit. And again, a very good opportunity for photo-based artists to get exposed to public art and also be part of a capture photography festival, which is quite a fantastic institution featuring lens-based art. So yeah, thank you. And we already mentioned this, but yeah, there's many different ways that you can find out about public art opportunities. These are just some of the ones we do in Richmond, and I will share the ones that my colleagues spoke about, and we'll be waiting for your newsletter, bated breath. But yeah, we have a newsletter through How Art Works, which is a website through Cultural Services in Richmond. Public Art is our general email that you can email us if you're not on our e-listserv, so we can send you direct emails for opportunities. Alliance for the Arts was already mentioned. Akimbo, they usually do mostly East Coast of Canada, but if you're looking for like more national opportunities, because it's not just here, there's so many different opportunities. Instant Coffee is a really good one. Creative Cities Network, and other government agencies. Yes, I think we did talk more than we thought. See, we have lots to say. So maybe we'll just open it up. We just have 15, 20 minutes for questions, so I'll open it up to anybody that has a question. Michael?
Hi, thank you so much for this opportunity. I had some questions about the selection panel rosters that was mentioned about the Surrey and the Richmond. When I read some calls for the artist wrap, like the utility box wraps, for example, it does say city staff cannot apply, or some other like prerequisite that like kind of exclude you from applying. And I was curious if you have, for example, applied to become a selection panel roster in other city. Does that impact when you apply for another roster in other city? Or sorry.
No.
I think the only restriction is you can't be on the selection panel of something you've applied to.
Yes.
Other than that.
That's a good point. You can't be on the selection panel as an artist. Just, you know, if there's an opportunity, if you want to be part of the selection panel, just don't apply to that opportunity.
Yes. Okay. So if like the selection panel, I feel like it's more like broad. You don't know which project you're going to be part of. So once you apply for that, does that exclude you from applying for any other?
No. I mean, we will, sorry, I'm taking up all the time here. No, basically like we'll offer you the seat at the panel, and it's up to you to take it. Like you could say, no, I'm planning on applying to this one, so I'll skip. Or I'm going to Mexico that week, sorry. Like you don't have to accept the offer. We're just gonna put it out there if we think you're a fit, and if you can do it, great.
Nice.
And just an example of how we may look for different fits. If we just had one, West Richmond Pavilion, so we were looking at artists that may have done similar work, what we were looking for, but also we were looking for community members that live in the area. You know, so there's many different lenses that we look through to choose people from the panel. So it's a very broad list, and it's just good to be there. Like Hillary said, it's such a good opportunity to be on the selection panel.
So you would rather say like it's like an asset, if like as an experience to be able to see the other side of the.
100%.
Okay, thank you so much.
Any other questions? Oh, we can just give it to you, neighbor.
Chris, on the piece that had the bronze animals on the side of the building, so would the artist have just gone, here's my idea, before knowing like that the building wall could handle something like that? Or where does engineering get involved in the bidding process?
Right. So, you know, Hillary was talking earlier about like how much work goes into putting an artist call. So scoping out all of the possibilities should be clear at that stage as well. So like before, for that call, before we released it, we knew that we wanted something to be wall mounted. So we had to know how much the wall could handle. And normally, I don't know if, we didn't really talk about it, I'm not sure if you guys are familiar, but many of the bigger projects have a 2-stage process. The first stage is you apply with your portfolio. And basically, we're just looking to see like who has potential to show us more here. And so we shortlist to like, let's say 5, 6, 7, depending on the program. And then those artists will be given like 6 to 8 weeks to come up with a concept. And then you'll present to the panel and then a specific idea based on the requirements of the project. Then we'll give you a little orientation, etc. And then it gets selected from there.
And they get an honorary.
And you get paid for that, yeah.
And I should also say that for a lot of the large projects, there's often an information session that is offered as a result of the call. You should always attend that because you will gain insight that you, we, as we're going into some of these larger commissions, for example, the Burke Mountain Community Centre that we have coming up in the next few years, will probably offer an information session before we even put the shortlist together. So those are really important things to attend and listen to because you'll gain insight into what is being sought through that you may not even necessarily pay attention to as a part of the formal call document.
And just to sort of piggyback on that, a lot of the information sessions that are offered, usually the architect or the developer, or there will be someone on site that if you actually had a question, like can this even withstand something like that they'll have a good general idea, so that then you know that at least if I'm moving forward that my idea is going to work. Or maybe if they say no, absolutely not, because they'll tell you right away. Or you can say, can we consider the windows? And they might say yes. We have a pretty good idea of what's potentially or what's not, so that it will help you to make your design as well.
One more question, might be to Hillary, I think. The developer project, this old house that had it built into the architecture at the beginning. Yes. But for Burke Mountain, does the city, like you see the picture there, do they go, okay, we're going to build these 2 walls for murals, and we're going to build this, patio area for an outdoor sculpture, or is it you find out after the fact, oh, hey, here's a spot?
No, so in the case of Burke Mountain Community Centre, I've been a part of those planning discussions essentially since I started back in 2024. So as one gets closer to as one goes through the design development phase, and I think for Burke Mountain we're close to 95%. Hopefully you've already identified those locations, and the architects and eventually the contractors will work that into the process. And that's sort of what my colleagues were saying about trying to do all of that forward planning with engineering and the architects as early as possible, because it saves so much money and it makes it so much more efficient if you know exactly what piece is going where.
Yeah, like with that wall-mounted work, we identified that as the site before they even broke the ground. Like, we're looking at the drawings and we're like, this is the drawings, the site plan, and we're like, this is what makes sense. We didn't know what was going to go on the wall, but we knew that was the location.
If I can add, for larger projects, we just are in the middle of completing the Steveston Community Centre in Steveston. We created a public art plan because we identified three different opportunities for public art. So one outdoor, one integrated into the facility, an interior element, as well as one that's going to be done after it's occupied as a community engaged piece. So when you have a larger budget, you kind of have a plan created. I think there was another question on this side.
This one's for Sara, actually. You showed us a beautiful project, the Welcome Posts, and I wondered if you could take us through how, I know you said it was funded by developers, but how that project came to the city and, became funded in that way. Like, what is the process to use?
So it was supplemented by developer, sort of with the art reserve. When Tasha Faye Evans first came to the city and had this idea that she really wanted to see sort of happen, is that she had secured her own funding as well. So many of the posts that when they were initially carved, because they have been carved, I think the last one was just finished, but most of the other 4 had been completed for about a year. So she was able to secure through grant funding the sort of initial cost to secure the materials and to pay the artist, and then and there wasn't any remaining money for the actual installation and sort of the ceremonies that were going to be following. And so that's where the city then has stepped in and has used the art reserve that we have just to help facilitate like the remainder of the project. So does that make sense?
But even so she proposed something that would be on the land, right? I mean, and so we were talking about needing to take a departmental approach. Like, was this literally a project that came from a citizen, or was it something that was coming from the city and said, hey,
No, it was right. So it definitely came from a citizen who really wanted to see some integration or acknowledgement of the previous land caretakers of the land. And as the city was also, we had started to engage the of having an Indigenous relations manager as well. And so there was a lot of work that the city was doing behind the scenes for truth and reconciliation. And so when Tasha Faye Evans approached the city, that this was something that she really wanted to see. There was a lot of acknowledgement that this was something that was needed, and but it really was it really was derived like from a citizen as opposed to an initiative from the city. The city knew that we were going to be redoing a lot of the boardwalk, the shoreline boardwalk. We knew that that was coming down in future years, because when this was first initiated, it was right around like just before COVID, and so that there has been a huge amount of delays, like, for the installation of these posts. But because we knew this work was coming, then that's when the city also then, because of the foresight, and said that it makes more sense to install these once our infrastructure has been secured, instead of trying to install some of these post twice, because that's what would have happened. So in the end, it was engineering wise and installation wise, it was a city sort of initiative, because that we took the lead. The artist did not at all. The artist really, her sort of vision and role was to see these in place, and then as the city, we facilitated a lot of sort of the actual installation engineering, making sure that these will be, when they're installed, that they are installed correctly.
So we have only 5 minutes, and there's a couple of people right in front of you. Yeah.
We can talk later. Yeah. Okay.
Hi. Thank you all for these excellent presentations. It's been really informative and illuminating. I have a couple questions, but if we don't have time, we can just do one. It's been several times in your presentations you've mentioned how important it is to have the involvement of the public in what you're doing as public art programs, civic public art programs. I was wondering if you could each just say a little bit about how do you get the public involved, and are there tools you've built to, because generally speaking, our society is not terribly well conversant in contemporary art practice, and there can be a real need for bridging. So I'm just curious what you've all done to connect with the public and connect the resulting artworks that you've installed with the public to, you know, help sort of increase the levels of appreciation and awareness and that kind of thing.
I'm happy to start. That's a great question. And I think it sort of speaks to what I was trying to say earlier about the importance of, as an artist, if you're undertaking a proposal, think about the life after the installation for the piece. And it is very much our hope that these pieces become beloved in the community in which they live. So in Coquitlam, we involve the public from the very beginning in the selection panel process because often, as Biljana said, we're looking for people who are in the neighborhood and who know how that space is accessed and used, and that becomes a part of the selection process from the start. After a piece is installed, regardless of whether or not it's a mural or artful street furniture in some cases for us in Coquitlam, we work really hard to get the word out through our social media when something is installed at first. And then in the last few years in Coquitlam, we've been developing tools exactly as you speak to introduce people to pieces around the city. So we've developed some self-guided sort of walking tours that people can do that are downloadable off of our website, in which we've also promoted heavily using our city social media. And we did in September, October of last year, we offered multilingual walking tours, guided multilingual walking tours in English and French, in Mandarin, Farsi, and Korean. And we actually worked with organizations like Success BC to bring in newcomers to Canada to participate in those walking tours. We had some residents who were like, I've lived here for 30 years and I had never noticed this piece over here, and thank you for telling me about it. But we also saw a lot of newcomers participate in those walking tours, and they were learning about the history of the community and the diversity of the community through the pieces of art. And it was really exciting to see them make these connections and to feel a sense of belonging in the community as a result of that.
We start even at the scoping phase. Like if there's a facility and there's a very clear user group there, we'll engage with them before we even draft the artist call. So sort of like getting their experience of the space and like, what's the kind of atmosphere do you want to create? What kind of themes do you want to see? We try and avoid, like, you have to facilitate a lot of the conversation, so it's not like, I want something red, but it's like, I try and make it more about like tone and atmosphere and concept, and then we let the artist kind of interpret that. Then of course they're part of the selection panel, so they're directly involved in, not everybody of course, a select few. And I'll admit that our program, we're quite weak in terms of the public programming. Like we're just so busy in terms of new projects and getting projects done that I just haven't had the chance to do some of the type of things that like Hillary's doing.
We, at the City of Port Moody, we don't have a call for a selection panel, but that is something that I want to see happen, and that's on my to-do list. But we do rely heavily right now on our Arts, Culture, and Heritage Committee. It's a community committee that our city has different community committees. And so with the members there, we engage them quite a bit on different calls and to get information from them as well. And I think that all of us might too, with developers and depending with the art consultant, that art consultants generally reach out to ask if there are specific community members or different. So I have provided names as well of engaged members of our community.
Just really quickly, again, everything's been mentioned that we do in Richmond, but if I can do a plug, we've been really trying to build up our programming after the artwork has been installed, and so we do bus tours, we do bike tours, we do walking tours. Last year we did a pilot project where we did a tour, a public art tour once a month, like the first Saturday of every month, and it was quite well received. So we're doing it again this year. So it's going to start in May up until the fall in September. And we're going to be doing different. Last year we just focused on one area. This year we're going to be doing Steveston, Capstan, the Oval area, and then we also do public. And those are also, we're a team of two. So we're doing it with curators, local curators, and cultural workers that are interested in public art. So it's a bit of a training program too, and it's also other people's interpretation. And then we also do public art tours in partnership with the Richmond Art Gallery, with the museum. So it expands in that way as well. Oh, and sorry, one more thing. Engaging Artists in the Community program is kind of an artist residence program where we do 3 different artists per year, where they work about a year with a different group, maybe a school or a community center, where they may not do a legacy project, but it's a community engaged piece, and that's another way of engaging community into our public art program. Maybe one last, or are we good? Okay. Yeah, there's somebody in the back. I think and then we're here, I'm here if you have any other questions.
I just have a quick question. At the very beginning, it was mentioned that there are workshops that's offered to the city and community. I just wonder, if I were to have skill to offer, what should I do? Like, how do I apply? How does it work?
That's the Art at Work workshop. So they're designed for professional development for artists. So if you'd like to learn, and you can see them on the website, they're not all public art related, but they can be anything from how to apply to a gallery, how to create a gallery statement, how to create a budget for public art, how to apply for a public art project. So there are many different workshops on different themes. Some of them are already happened, so you can see them archived on the website of the Richmond Art Gallery, but we also have some upcoming as part of this year that you can attend. So depending on your interests, you can sign up. They're always free, and we welcome anybody to participate.
Oh, sorry, I was really asking, because I'm from Burnaby, and I see there are a lot of like for example, like craft workshops and like just different type of art. There's pottery. I just wonder, if I have a skill that I want to offer and teach, what should I do? How does it work?
You may want to talk to somebody in Burnaby Cultural Services. I know in Richmond, and we have a Cultural Services department here. They typically would do a call for teachers, so for workshop leaders. That's how we do it. We always have a kind of like a job call, and they would be advertised on the city website.
I see. Thank you.
Great. Well, thank you so much. I love doing these workshops. Please come and say hi. It's really great to meet new faces and then see some old friends. Make sure to visit the gallery. It's open now. There's a fantastic exhibition. And keep in touch. Please fill out the survey that was given to you in the beginning, and let us know if you'd like to see any specific workshops in the future. Thank you. And thank you to my wonderful colleagues. Such a pleasure to work with you. We call each other all the time. We talk all the time. So it's just nice to kind of see each other in person and talk about our program. So thank you so much for spending your Saturday with us.